The muzzle was too tight. The pup's whimpers had gone hoarse, barely audible beneath the rustling wind through the pines. Bound and trembling, he lay hidden behind a fallen log deep in the woods, the sun barely slicing through the thick canopy. Something about him was unnatural. A collar with a rusted lock, paws scraped raw, eyes wide with silent pleading. Emily didn't mean to find him. She was just following the sound. A low, broken growl that didn't match the usual wildlife. When she saw him, her heart clenched. A golden retriever pup, no older than a few months, lay muzzled and shaking. His body stiff with fear, but his eyes locked onto hers. She knelt beside him, hands shaking, and slowly unlatched the muzzle. As it clattered to the earth, the dog didn't bark. He didn't run. He just stared past her shoulder, frozen, as if something was still watching. Emily turned, but the forest behind her was still too still. The pup pressed closer to her leg, tail tucked. Something had kept him here. Something had muzzled him, locked him up, and left him alive. But why? As she stood, holding the pup in her arms, the air grew colder. A faint path led deeper into the woods, almost invisible to the eye, yet the pup glanced toward it, ears twitching. Emily hesitated, torn between fleeing and following. Then the leaves rustled, and something gleamed in the dark ahead. A glint of silver, and a whimper from the pup. She stepped forward. Fog hung low over the forest floor, curling like fingers around Emily's ankles as she moved forward. The trees were unnaturally quiet, their branches skeletal against a pale gray sky. Every step she took crunched softly over damp leaves and broken twigs. In her arms, the golden retriever shivered, though his fur was thick. The muzzle now hung from her belt like a cursed relic, swinging slightly with each step. Emily had always found peace in these woods, until today. There was something wrong here. The deeper she went, the heavier the air grew, like it carried secrets too old to be disturbed. Still, she couldn't stop. Something about the dog, his trembling body, the faded scars on his legs, the way he flinched at sudden sounds, called to her. This wasn't just a lost pup. Someone had done this. She reached a small clearing where sunlight barely pierced through, illuminating something half-buried in the dirt. A child's shoe, small, pink, weathered by rain and time. Emily stared at it, her breath catching. The pup let out a low whine. As she bent to pick it up, she noticed markings in the dirt. Drag marks, faint paw prints, and deeper grooves like something had been dragged away. Her stomach twisted. She glanced at the dog, who stared at the markings with stiff alertness, then looked at her as if to say, "We have to keep going." And still, beneath all the fear and confusion, hope flickered. The faint sense that something or someone still waited to be found. Emily Walker wasn't supposed to be in the woods that day. After all, she hadn't hiked here since her brother disappeared 3 years ago. Her days were usually spent behind the counter at the bookstore in town, wrapped in routine and avoidance. But something had pulled her there this morning. A dream, maybe, or the feeling that something unfinished was still hiding in those trees. Grief had shaped much of Emily's life since the tragedy. She'd learned how to keep moving, how to smile without feeling it, how to act whole when something vital had been torn away. But the woods still whispered to her in quiet moments. The place her brother had last been seen, chasing after a noise, never to return. So when she stumbled upon the muzzled pup, it felt more than coincidence. The dog, whom she instinctively began calling Scout, didn't behave like a stray. His fur, though dirty, was trimmed. His ears perked when she spoke softly. He didn't growl or try to bite. It was the way he followed her every movement, the way his eyes searched her face for meaning. He was waiting for something, maybe someone. And then there was the collar. Thick leather, too tight. No tags, only a set of etched numbers she didn't recognize. The more time she spent with him, the more Scout seemed to trust her, though he remained on edge, ears swiveling at even the faintest rustle. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that he had been somewhere dark, that someone had tried to erase him, to hide him. But why? As they moved deeper into the woods, Scout suddenly stopped. His body stiffened, ears pinned. A low growl rolled from his throat. Emily froze. The clearing ahead looked empty, but something was wrong. The dog stepped forward cautiously, nose to the ground. That's when she noticed it. A strip of fabric tangled in the brush, blue and torn, just like the jacket her brother had worn. Her pulse quickened. Hope lit in her chest. Could it be? But Scout suddenly barked, loud and sharp, before bolting toward the shadows. Emily ran after Scout, her boots slipping on damp leaves, heart hammering like a war drum in her chest. The dog darted through the underbrush with purpose, not fear. She barely kept up as he weaved around trees, past thorny vines, and over shallow gullies. Finally, they burst into another clearing, this one littered with strange remnants. Rusted cages, broken ropes, and torn cloth lay scattered as if a storm had tried to erase them. Scout stood at the center, tail rigid, nose to the ground. Emily hesitated, staring at the twisted metal and decay. This wasn't just a campsite. It looked like something worse, a place where something or someone had been kept. She noticed carvings in the trees, symbols she didn't recognize, crude and angry. Fear crept in, but Scout wasn't afraid. He sniffed around until he let out a sharp bark at a pile of leaves. Emily knelt and brushed them aside, revealing a small notebook, soaked but legible. It was her brother's handwriting, her vision blurred. Dates, names, notes about the sound, and a trail marked by stones. As she flipped through the pages, one entry caught her eye. If you find the dog, follow him. He remembers. He knows. Scout whined, urging her toward a trail of stones arranged deliberately into a spiral. Emily followed, clutching the journal. The woods grew darker as they moved, trees thicker, branches clawing. Then she heard it, a soft sound, like a child's hum. Scout growled low. Emily pushed forward. They emerged onto a ledge overlooking a dry ravine. Something moved below, a shack half hidden by trees, smoke curling from its chimney. Emily crouched, pulse thudding. Who lived there? She held Scout back. He growled again, but she whispered calm into his fur. Through binoculars in her bag, she spotted movement inside, a figure pacing. A man, tall, lean, with a limp. Her brother had written about someone like that. Emily knew she had to get closer, but as she stepped forward, a twig snapped beneath her boot. The man stopped, looked up, straight at her. Emily ducked behind the trunk, heart pounding. She pulled Scout close, whispering calming words. The man lingered at the shack's doorway, eyes scanning the treeline. Then, after a long moment, he turned back inside. Emily exhaled, then followed the ridge down in a wide arc to approach the shack from the side. Each step felt like a gamble, her nerves on fire. Scout moved beside her, his body low and tense but silent. Near the shack, they hid behind a pile of stacked logs. Emily peeked through a gap. Inside, she saw maps, photos, and cages. Dog cages. All empty now. One photo pinned to the wall showed a child with a dog. The same golden fur, same eyes. Scout whimpered. She tried the back door. Creaked. Her breath caught. Inside, the place smelled of smoke and rust. She moved quickly, lifting a small notebook from the table. More entries. Experiment logs. Dates. Codes. Mentions of behavioral triggers and muzzle trials. Her stomach turned. Then a creak upstairs. Someone else was here. Scout bolted ahead, barking madly. Emily chased after him, heart in her throat. They reached the attic, where an old man cowered in the corner. Not the same man. Different. Frail. Terrified. He took the others, the man muttered. Took them into the mine. What mine? The one past the ridge. He keeps them there. Dogs. Children. Anyone who wanders too far. Emily recoiled. Scout barked again, running out. The ridge. The journal mentioned it. They had to go. Twilight crept over the ridge as Emily and Scout climbed the narrow trail. Every rustle set her on edge. She kept one hand on her flashlight, the other on the old journal. The mine entrance was almost invisible, hidden by moss and jagged rocks. But Scout found it, his nose pressed to the ground, tail stiff. Emily pried open the wooden planks covering the entrance. Darkness poured out. Inside, the mine was cold and damp. Emily followed Scout through winding tunnels, her light bouncing off stone walls. Then she heard it. A voice. Weak, childlike. Help! Emily froze. Zach! Her voice cracked. Another cry echoed. Here! They ran, turning corners until they found a barred door. Behind it, 3 children sat, shivering. One of them was Zach. He looked up. Tears blurred her vision. I'm here! Scout barked furiously. Emily found the keys on a nearby hook and opened the door. Zach ran to her, sobbing. He left us, said the dog would come. He said the dog was the key. They escaped through the mine, children in tow. As they reached the outside, sirens wailed. Emily had sent a signal earlier. Police arrived and the nightmare ended. The man was caught near the shack. The truth unraveled. He had been abducting people, testing behaviors with dogs to guard the woods. But Scout had escaped. Scout had remembered, and Scout had led her back. Weeks later, Emily and Zach sat on their porch, Scout resting between them, tail thumping lazily. The forest no longer held fear. It held memories, yes, but also answers. Scout had come into Emily's life like a whisper from the past, a thread pulled loose that unraveled the truth. She often thought of the moment she found him, bound and broken, and how he had healed them more than they had rescued him. Zach laughed again now. Emily slept without waking in panic. Their home felt warm again. Scout had scars, but they faded. His spirit had not. He followed Emily everywhere, no longer flinching at sounds. He'd chosen her, and she had followed his lead into the darkest places. Together, they'd come back into the light. That forest trail, once avoided, had become a place of peace again. The leaves no longer whispered fear, but strength. They'd survived. They'd found each other, and that was enough. Would you have followed a dog into the woods, not knowing what you'd find? Emily did, and it changed her life forever. If Scout hadn't guided her, Zach might never have been found. Have you ever had a moment where an animal led you to something incredible? A place, a truth, a person? Tell us in the comments below. What would you have done if you found a muzzled pup in the woods? Let your voice be heard. If the story moved you, please give it a like so more people can discover Scout's journey. Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories of courage, love, and the incredible bond between dogs and humans. Share this video with someone who believes in hope, second chances, and following the unexpected paths life throws at us. Because sometimes the smallest paws leave the biggest footprints on our hearts. Subscribe, like, comment, and let the next story begin.